Great. We're now live, and we'll welcome everyone as they're joining. Thanks for jumping on. We have an exciting hour planned with everybody. If you do want to grab a coffee or a tea or a water, we're just going to give a few more minutes for people from across the country to join. So get comfortable, and we'll join in just a few minutes. Awesome. We're seeing so many great people join from the furthest west coast to the north, the east coast, and everywhere in between. So it's great to have everyone together for this mentoring month conversation with Sam and Mary. We've got a lot in store. I think it's one of the glass half fulls out of this whole virtual world is how we can bring people together from so many different places and so many different programs of study and all get to talk about careers here. So it is definitely a thing we can all celebrate despite this work from home world. Great, and welcome to all the people that are continuing to join. We're going to just give a few more minutes to people to hop onto the WebEx and get comfortable. So you do have a few minutes if you're around to grab a water or a coffee or a tea and get settled. As you're all joining, you can also see a chat and a question area. Feel free to always introduce yourself if you want to drop in a question. We will be facilitating some open Q&A for the last 20 or 30 minutes. So if you want to get ahead and drop in a question, feel free to do so using the chat. So for those that are sorting out audio, you can actually just go down and go to the audio input and settings and just make sure it's connected to your computer audio, and that should help sort it out. So just on the very bottom, you'll see a downward arrow, and you can choose your speaker to make sure it's selected for your laptop or computer. Great. I'm just looking over at my colleague, Aaron. If maybe we'll give everybody 30 more seconds just to join. We see people continuing to jump on. And welcome to all the early birds, and congrats on always solving WebEx. It's always fun to learn these new platforms. The good thing is now that you've cracked WebEx, as you think about the world of work, most employers use WebEx, so it's a good first practice round. And welcome to the session. Okay, well, why don't we get started? And as a note, we're going to record this session so that your classmates and some of the other youth from across the country that might not have been able to join will be able to share the recording after. But welcome to everyone to our RBC Future Launch Mentoring Month event. We've got a jam-packed agenda with two of the most inspirational people I know I've been able to interview and get to know. And so we're excited to be able to bring this to all of you virtually, to be able to share a virtual coffee and talk all things mentoring and how mentoring can help you get a job and how to navigate this new world of work. From a high-level agenda, we're going to introduce our two panelists. We have a question and answer plan to jump into all the key questions that I know a lot of you have been asking yourselves. And then we'll open up to question and answers from all of you. So as you're thinking about questions, or if you have them already, you can actually just drop them right into the Q&A using the WebEx. And our team will be sending them my way, and we'll do our best to get to as many of them as possible. So without further ado, why don't we jump in, and I'll introduce my two panelists. This is definitely the most nerve-wracking part of my job, because both of our panelists have a very long list of achievements, awards, and recognitions. So I've been spending the last 24 hours trying to memorize all these accomplishments. It's quite impressive, to say the least. But first, I'll introduce Mary DePaoli. Mary's been someone who's, I know, inspired my career and many other people's careers around so many things, but happens to also have one of the biggest jobs in Canadian marketing as the Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at RBC. One of the other impressive parts of Mary's job is she's also the chair of the board for the RBC Foundation, which for many of you, you've seen the RBC Future Launch Program, one of the most innovative programs to help young people prepare for the future of work. And Mary's been a key visionary to bring that to life. She's also been Marketer of the Year by Strategy Magazine, Canada's top 100 most powerful women, Canada's top 40 under 40 recipients, and that's just to name a few. So welcome, Mary. Thanks for having a virtual coffee with all of us and being able to share everything you know about mentoring and careers.
No, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
And next is Sam Effah. Welcome to Sam, a native Albertan, professional athlete, and potentially a familiar face for a lot of people on the call, having come second place in the Amazing Race Canada Season 7. I think a lot of us were gunning for him to get first place, but second is good enough, I think. Sam is a professional athlete. He's represented Canada at 3 World Championships, 3 World University Games, and the 2018 Commonwealth Games. Sam also has a full-time job in his day-to-day in brand marketing, managing Olympic athletes across the country and supporting on programs like the World Junior Hockey Championships, the Winter Olympics, RBC Training Ground, and he's also a keynote speaker. Sam, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for that intro. And I'm before I even jump into it, I see this chat just blowing up. Feel free to talk, among yourselves. This is an interactive piece. So I am super excited to be here with Mary, and we're going to go through some great questions about membership. Be sure, I have to say this, connect with 10,000 Coffees and tag myself and Mary on social after the event. I have to say this because I want to keep this conversation going. This is all about mentorship, and a part of that piece is networking. So get your phones out, I got mine, and post on LinkedIn. I put an Instagram story. Go on that. Go on my post. Give us some key takeaways. Mentorship for me, it's been a theme in my life for as long as I can remember. I was always a super shy kid, an introverted kid. And believe it or not, in the beginnings for me in university, it was especially tough to branch out and meet people. But what I realized as an athlete is having a mentor it's no different than actually just having a coach. It needs to be a good fit, and it needs to be natural. Coaches and mentors, they both want to see you succeed. So they help you both limit your mistakes, and most importantly, they put you on the most efficient path to achieving your goals. Thanks to mentorship and guidance, I've been able to, as Dave said, represent Canada at things like World Championships, Commonwealth Games, all that stuff. But it's been really cool to develop a career in youth strategy and innovation. So that's where I am now. I was in brand marketing. More recently, I moved to the youth strategy and innovation team with Future Launch, and it's awesome. I got to use my degree. I got to elevate BIPOC youth. And you know what? I've really fallen into my passion of helping young people. Mentorship, when I think of that word, it's more than just guidance. It's about helping to reveal that raw talent in somebody and maximizing the potential that they never knew they had. So grab your notebooks. I got mine right here, and let's kick this off. So enough about me, Mary. I am curious about your thoughts. Mentorship can mean so many different things in so many different settings. It can be like a long-term relationship, spending years with a trusted advisor, learning new things from a boss or a senior, or meeting new people and having two-way learning experiences. Can you share a story or a single conversation that pivoted your own career path? I'm curious for this one.
Okay, well, I've had many of those pivots, right? I mean, the one thing that life tells you is it's never a straight line. So let me think. So, yes, so there was this one moment in my career journey where I was very happy in my career. I was working for a bank on the investment side, and then all of a sudden the financial crisis hit, right? And I think some of you, would be aware of what happened at the time. But for Canadian companies, because they were so strong going through the financial crisis, it actually represented a huge opportunity. And so my mentor at the time called me into his office and said, listen, when you think about what's happened, the world has gone on sale. The price of buying TV ads or putting your name on the side of a stadium, it's all gone on sale because of the fact that the crisis has, really disrupted, the industry. And so he said, so we're going to take this opportunity. We're going to charge right in, and we're going to build our brand around the world, in China, in the United States, in the UK. And I'm sitting back listening to him saying, that's great. I'll let you know if I know of someone who can help you. And he kind of finished the conversation by saying, and so I'd like you to leave the job that you're currently doing and do something totally different. I want you to become a chief marketing officer. And Sam, I'll never forget that day because I sat back and said, I don't know anything about marketing. I don't know anything about, this role, this function. I can't do it. That's not for me. I didn't have, the courage or the confidence whatsoever. But the great thing about mentors is they often know you better than you know yourself. And they often see things in you, skills in you that are portable. And so I listened. It took a few days to really kind of get my confidence up, but I listened to my mentor. And what it ended up doing is allowing me to embark on a career that was totally different, that I didn't know I had in me, and that I'm still doing today, and that I absolutely love. So mentors can be so pivotal to your life, and often it just comes down to having a great relationship with them and having them see in you sometimes what you may not even see in yourself.
I love that. And what resonated with me is that it's that piece of be slow to speak and quick to listen. Like your mentor gave you the confidence to go for it. And hearing that story, it gives me goosebumps because everybody on this call needs to have that same mentality with their mentor. They're here to guide us. But moving forward a little bit, my next question, Mary, that I want to ask you is, can you clarify now the difference between a mentor and a sponsor? Tell us a little bit about, how they've played a role in the evolution of your own career.
Yeah. So I think you summed it up really well at the beginning. Like a mentor is like a coach, right? They guide you, they advise you, they help you, they listen and help shape the way you see the world, the way you approach maybe a problem or a strategy or something at work in your career. So think of them as a bit of, your guardian kind of helping you through your career. And a sponsor is a little bit different. A sponsor is someone usually at work who will be your champion and advocate for you. So it's typically when you're not in the room, your sponsor is there representing you and encouraging people to look at you as a talent. I have been so lucky that I've had incredible mentors over the course of my life. And, I'll say mentors aren't just effective on your career journey. They've even helped me on my life journey. So as I became a mom, I needed mentors to help me understand this world of parenting. I've got two incredible daughters. I think one of them is actually on the line right now and probably making memes of this that I'll later regret. But what mentors do is they really help you stretch the definition of who you are and where you can take your career. So again, I've been very fortunate. One thing that I will be stressing to anyone who says, what goes into a good mentor and how do I look for a mentor? I would say this: find a mentor who is not your clone. So it's intuitive to you to have a relationship with someone that, feels like you. But the beauty of a mentor is someone who can actually help you think divergently, help you see around dark corners, help you see the world in a way that you've never seen it before. It just makes you a more diverse thinker, more holistic manager, whatever that might be. So, when I think back to the most effective mentor in my life, he looked nothing like me. He was male and he was an actuary and he was really analytical. I was female, more creative. So we had very different ways of looking at the world. But the beauty about that mentor relationship is he was able to give me a take on the world that I normally wouldn't have seen myself. And in return, I was actually able to give him a view into what my generation would see that he would normally not come across. So it was mutually beneficial. And I'd really encourage people to think about what is that value exchange both ways when you look at a mentor relationship.
Wow. I love that. What I got from that is a couple different things. So your mentor should be not completely different, but different enough from you so that you can pivot and learn new things. With challenges come new skills. And what that makes me think of, and it can be the smallest things. I have a mentor over at RBC. I don't know if he's watching, Matt McGlynn. He challenged me just in terms of answering emails in a specific way, being efficient as possible. Little things that I would never have thought of, he would challenge me. So for everybody out there, think of, if you're looking for a mentor, think of somebody who can challenge you. It's okay to be different. It's okay to learn.
Yeah.
But let's jump to the next question. With the pandemic, the world of work transformed in so many ways. I mean, we're here all on laptops or some sort of device. We fast forward a lot of change and globalization was in motion, but now these things are solidified, as we've had to go with these new virtual health guidelines. Networking and chatting with somebody over coffee used to be the go-to way to meet somebody for mentorship and conversation. So I'm curious, Mary, how can youth find a good mentor in today's age?
Yeah. What I'll say is this pandemic has definitely put so many barriers up from the way we used to work and the way we used to have relationships. But around mentoring, the fundamentals have not changed. We still have the ability to connect with people in a relationship that is mutually beneficial. It's just that today we're doing it virtually. But if you look at it kind of from the glass half full or opportunity standpoint, on this call today, as an example, there are people from right across Canada, coast to coast to coast, and we're all learning something from each other. So use technology to its fullest to allow you to create connections that you may not normally have even thought of in a world where we were always just one-to-one, person to person. I had a networking session this morning with someone who, if I had to drive there, would probably have taken 10 hours, right? Mm-hmm. So they normally would not have been in my path, but technology has now democratized all of that. And we can link up irrespective of geography. So that would be one thing. I would say, don't let technology hinder you. Use it to your advantage. Erase, geographical seams. Find people that are interesting no matter where they are. Use things like 10,000 Coffees. I mean, this is such an amazing chassis to help you discover new people, discover new things about yourself, new tools. Use LinkedIn, use Future Launch. And then I'd even say, think about where you want to go in your career journey. If you want to go into marketing, look at the Canadian Marketing Association. For that matter, look at the American Marketing Association. Find people that can really inspire you and shape you as you start that journey. If you're in a different sector, look for those industry associations that are there. But the bottom line is you've got to work at it. It does take time. It takes time to build a network. It takes time to build connections. It takes time to really invest in your mentor. But I promise you, if there's one thing that I've learned in my career, the value of your network and the value of great mentors, it stays with you for life. And it makes such a difference in your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth job. It really is an investment in you.
Wow. Again, it resonates so heavily with me because yes, we're going through COVID-19, but the silver lining is you can connect to anybody.
Yeah.
As you said, I know we have people on the far East Coast from Newfoundland for you to jump here and connect with people all the way over in Victoria. Like I love that feeling of just the connectivity. So just think about that. And I would also add, we think of mentoring, we think of networking, we think of reaching out and meeting this person so far away. A lot of times we also need to utilize the circles that we have. If you look within your own university, there are career centers, there are so many resources, and sometimes we try and just like hop those fences. So I would even challenge you, before even jumping out and looking, see who you have within your circles, and then jump onto something like 10,000 Coffees and go and network. So a follow-up to that question, and you've probably mastered this by now, Mary, but what do you do when you're struggling to initiate a conversation with somebody, whether it be just like a mentorship or a networking conversation?
Well, okay, I'll let you in on a little secret. I still struggle, honestly. So
Really?
for all of you there on this call, I admire the group of you that are just naturally charismatic, like my friend Sam here, right? If you have the gift of that incredible human connection where you can walk into a room and meet people naturally and, bring their personality out, or even doing it one-to-one, that's a superpower, right? Use it because it's not all that common. So if you've got it, use it to your advantage. It'll make your connections happen even quicker. Those opportunities will just be that much quicker for you. For the rest of us, who really struggle, who might be more shy, who might be more introverted, believe me, you can get past it. I remember, especially early in my career, I'd walk into a conference or into a room with 10, 15 people, and I would freeze up. I wouldn't know how to start a conversation, how to not look awkward, how to not be anxious. It took a long time to feel confident and comfortable in my own skin. And there are days still where that's, still kind of the case for me, even after all these years. So this is what I do. I just prepare. I prep. And that's the advice I would give to you. The more prepared you are to walk into any kind of social setting where you're looking to make connections or potentially find a mentor or a job, preparation is everything. So kind of at the top end, if it's more social, if you're just looking to network, I will do things like, okay, what were the headlines today and yesterday? What were some of the things that people were talking about on Twitter? What are some of the things that were trending? What happened in sports? Whatever it might be, but have a comfortable list of topics that you can just reach out to depending on who you're talking to make it an easy icebreaker. And then when you're talking to someone more in depth, and it might be, someone in your industry or the industry you aspire to be in, if you know who that person is, be prepared, research them. Were they ever interviewed? Did they ever do a video? Where did they work last? Do they volunteer in a community? Is there something interesting about them? But dig and research. No matter what, it'll do two things for you. One, it'll make you feel more confident because you're coming in prepared. But two, it's going to show that person you care enough to come ready. Like you're ready, you know something about them, and you're engaged and you're locked and ready to really get something out of that meeting. So it sounds simple, preparation. Believe me, I've had so many people that have, come across my path, and you can tell the ones that are prepared and the ones that are winging it at the last minute. And really, preparation will take you much further.
Wow, and it's so true. I even to add on to that piece, you're talking about preparation. Like I have my notebook right here. Like I know this is an event to everybody out there, but I'm like, in case Mary drops some gems, I'm going to write some. I'm even writing stuff down, even though I'm helping to host this. So everybody out there, make sure every time you go to a meeting, you go out, you bring your notebook or you bring something and you have those questions. Being an introverted person, naturally, I hate going into meetings and having to kind of like freestyle it as I go. I kind of have this notebook and 10 questions written down just so it's kind of my safe haven. If I start sweating, get nervous, it's like, okay, question 4, what did it feel like to whatever. So like Mary said, these seem very simple and basic things, but they're game changers. Game changers.
Yeah.
So yeah, with that, let's jump into our next question. So I have here 85% of jobs are filled through networking and mentoring. How can today's youth turn mentorship into a job?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I would start by saying is don't go into a conversation saying, I'm looking for a job. That puts a lot of pressure up front into a conversation, especially a new relationship, and it can get a bit awkward, right? Instead, what I would say is this. When you start these conversations, start with what your journey is and the way you envision your journey going, even if it's like the next 3 years, because nobody expects you to have it figured out, of course. But if you start with what that arc looks like, the arc that Sam is on, I want to do the following, that couple of goals over the next, couple of years, and this is what they look like. What a mentor can do is be useful and say, I can help you with that part of your journey. And that mentor will then also say, and I have maybe someone who can connect you on this part of your journey, or maybe give you that kind of experience. And from conversations come connections, from connections come jobs. It's always that way. And the more people you have in your network who understand who you are and where you're going, the easier it is for someone to say something useful and to just present an opportunity, at the moment that it's ready. So don't despair. It takes time, it takes effort. You're investing in yourself, but it does pay off. The more connections, the more that people know where you're going, the more they can see themselves on that journey with you in your career.
Yeah, and it makes so much sense. All I hear when you're speaking is it's persistence, it's patience, it's taking the time. Things don't happen overnight. I think everybody on this call needs to understand that it's going to take time, but I promise you, if you keep going, something will come up. For me, networking has always been a bit of a wild ride, and to be honest, I would have never expected it to go the way that it did for me. I look at networking as just like it's making friends, and that's what you have to do. Get to know people authentically, create genuine connections. And again, the cool thing is you can do this on 10,000 copies. It takes away the pressure. And believe me when I say, most people can see right through when you're trying so hard to get something from them. Don't be that person. Be authentic. And it's easy for me to say, be authentic. But nowadays, I'll go into meetings with no pressure and do my best just to get to know the person. If I leave with nothing, that's okay. If I leave with something, it's a bonus. I make sure, like I said, to have at least 8 or 9 questions down in my book. And if they are somebody that I aspire to be, I'll consider asking them to be a mentor, but only after several meetings. It has to be a natural fit. And I've only done this a few times. If the conversation is really comfortable, I always make sure to end the meeting by getting the person that I'm networking with to introduce me to like 1 or 2 other people. And Mary spoke on this. And that, in my opinion, I kind of came up with this myself. I'm sure somebody else has done this. I call this like the networking chain. So I have like a funny little story. So my networking chain started in my hometown, Calgary, Alberta. So if anybody's from Calgary, I can't more, that's close enough. But yeah, I met with as an athlete, I met with the managing director at my sport facility. Her name's Kara Button. Amazing, amazing woman. She helps athletes, and she introduced me to 2 people who were in marketing, who then introduced me to 2 more people. And then those people did the same thing and so on. And I met a ton of people, but stayed focused on meeting people within that industry, that niche, marketing. That's what I love. So eventually I moved to Toronto for sport. And while I was there, I was able to get a meeting through somebody that I met in Calgary, that initial meeting that I spoke on, because of that networking meeting, and that networking chain kept going. I remember sitting in the office, and this was like such a surreal experience. It was like the vice president of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment at the time. Her name is, she doesn't work there anymore, Allison Walker. And I was thinking,
Allie.
Yeah, she's, and I barely knew anybody in the city, but here I am, downtown Toronto, like the 33rd floor, overlooking all of Toronto, and I'm here for a meeting, and this all stemmed from one connection in Calgary. This is the power of networking.
Yeah.
So I kept going, and I would meet person after person after person. And eventually I landed an interview at RBC, which eventually led to my role right now in strategy, youth strategy and innovation. So I learned about RBC. I learned about all the different roles, and I met people in positions that I aspired to be in, even before interviewing. It was super helpful. And it was through the same chain of networks that started in Calgary that introduced me to my hiring manager at RBC, believe it or not. And the great thing to top it off, you know, I've told you I'm in youth strategy and innovation. My new manager is now somebody that I consider my career mentor. If he's watching, Mark Beckles, awesome guy. He looks like me, talks like me. I want to be successful like him. I'm probably going to get a lot of LinkedIn invites now. Sorry, Mark. But what I want to end with is that patience, persistence, and preparation make an unstoppable combination when it comes to networking and finding, you know, mentors. So as we move forward, I got my book here. Grab that book, write this stuff down. This is gold. But I want to switch back to Mary in terms of Future Launch. It's been key in providing access to 10,000 Coffees and other programs to help youth across Canada prepare for the future of work. Mary, you know, why and how did mentorship and networking become a fundamental pillar in the Future Launch mandate?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's exactly what you just said, right? So, you know, and for everybody on this call, like you're coming from a place where you're either in university, in college, you're learning, right? Like, so you're in kind of the academic space, but you've got to get to your first job or your first kind of real career job. And the problem is that chasm in between is so hard. It's what we're talking about. How do you make connections? How do you find a mentor? How do you get your first big break? How do you get someone to believe in you, to just give you the chance to show you can shine? That is the problem. Like it's right there. You know, I think about my own experience. You know, I'm the daughter of two immigrants to Canada. And in the field that I wanted to go into, my parents couldn't help me. They didn't have connections or, you know, people that they could link me with. So, you know, where do you start? And you have to start from scratch. Thankfully, we've got tools now like RBC Future Launch, which focuses on this, because what we found is this is the bridge between school and your first start in life. And that is a tough place to be. So if we can make it easier for you by creating partnerships like this with 10,000 Coffees or giving you the ability to navigate it easier, that is really the start, you know. And, you know, and Sam, you had a great story there, and I'll share one just so, you know, people really understand, like there's such great value in connections. So I remember that period of time between school and work, and I was unemployed for months, and I was just, I would tell my parents, I'm sending out resumes, and literally as soon as it's left my hand, the rejection letter is in the mail. Like, I don't even think it got to the destination before I got the no, and it was happening over and over. You can be so discouraged. I remember you're so discouraged. But one day, you know, I went for an interview, and I didn't get the job. I was too green. But that person I kept in touch with, and they called me one day, and they said, I've got a friend who's in a pinch. They have a deadline, and the person that they relied on is gone. We met a couple of weeks ago. I know you've got a background. It sounds like it's similar. Do you want to call this person? I said, yes. Yeah. I hardly knew this person. I certainly didn't know the one they were referring me to. But I got on the phone, and I said, I hear you're in a pinch. I can help. And they go, what do you know about XYZ? I'm like, nothing, but I can help. I said, I'll be there. What's your address? I got in the car, Sam. I drove to the place of employment, and I just jumped in. I got there around 1:30. I worked that day. I worked the next day, and they said, look, stay with me for 2 weeks. You're helping, stay with me for 2 weeks. I said, sure. So I thought, that's great. At the end of 2 weeks, they said, here's a 3-month contract. I thought, this is perfect. Even if it's temporary, it was giving me some income, and it was giving me some experience, and I was meeting people. From 3 months, it turned into a 2.5 career first job. And then here's the difference. So I stayed. I was so loyal. I worked my heart out. They appreciated it. It was mutually beneficial. that was over 25 years ago. Brian, the person who gave me that shot, is someone I still talk to today, and I would help if he ever asked for it, because part of this is you've got to remember the people that have helped you. And so from there, I went on to another job, but not before I found my successor and trained them and put them in place with Brian before I left, right? So, it's sort of kindness begets kindness. And so in that whole story, right, be prepared, jump at the chance, take anything that you can get. Any experience is great experience. And remember who the people are that gave you that break. That contact that introduced me to Brian, I've now since helped, because if it wasn't for that person even just thinking about me for this random opportunity, I wouldn't have had that first job. So connections, contacts, and being kind to people goes a long way.
Yeah, that's so true. And you're so humble, and you stayed humble. But what I also took from that is, when you didn't get the job, you were saying the rejection was right in the middle already. When you have those moments, don't be discouraged. Yes, it's not the easiest to get a job. That's why Future Launch is here. But take those moments and use them as learning moments. What I would always do is, if I didn't get a call back, or I didn't get, somebody didn't like my resume, whatever it was, throw a line and be like, can you give me feedback? Sometimes people, they don't respond. That's okay. They don't owe you anything. But there are a lot of people who, they see a young person and they see somebody who's trying. It's that persistence piece. Sometimes all it takes is 5 minutes of their day. But that feedback that you get, you use that so that the next job that you take on, you're that much stronger. And then let's say you get rejected 5 times. Well, you've leveled up 5 times. And I like to say, when you're knocked down so far, the only way to look is up. And that's how I look at it. You look at these things that knock you down, and you let them motivate you. You let them push you. So everybody, again, you can do this. If you're applying for jobs, we're in COVID, we got your back. Future Launch has your back as well. But with that being said, I want to turn things over to Dave Wilkin from 10,000 Coffees. I see so much going on in the chat. It gets me excited. We have questions.
It's jam-packed.
Like, Dave, there's going to be so many things to ask. But yeah, I'd love to turn things over to you. Let's do some Q&A from our amazing audience. Let's do this.
Yeah. First off, Sam and Mary, I think everyone have goosebumps on this call to hear these stories and just really bring the human kind of touch back into careers. I think when you see somebody with the accolades, that it was even hard to introduce both of you because of the laundry list of awards and wins. But everyone goes through rejection and challenges, and sharing that is just so helpful. So thank you for doing that. We're going to get a little creative with our Q&A, and we're going to get experimental and actually try and have some of the people that have asked questions to actually go on camera and be able to ask the question directly. We have a lot of questions, so we're going to ask you to try to keep your question to about 10 or 15 seconds, and then we'll turn it over to Mary and Sam to be able to answer. One of the first questions, if I break the ice and ask the first question, and then we're going to pass it over to Sophia to follow on. But for Mary and Sam, it's still January. We still get to set goals and resolutions. It's not too late just yet. There's a lot of different programs that Future Launch has built. What would be some goals that you think everyone on this call could make so that in December 31st of 2021, we're in a way better place with our careers? What can people do to set goals today to take advantage of Future Launch so that when we're all celebrating New Year's Eve next year, we feel so much better about our careers?
Cool.
You want to go ahead, Sam?
Maybe we'll go for Mary and then we'll pass it to Sam.
Okay, sure. So here's what I would say. Sometimes, setting goals and objectives like that can introduce maybe kind of a false pressure, right? It depends where you are, and it depends how big the goal is that you want to make for yourself. What I typically say to people is set small goals, set a few of them. If you exceed them, you're already ahead of the game. There should be a goal for you around, personal advancement. That could be maybe taking an online course in a related field that is similar but different enough that it kind of opens up your mind to something new. That there could be a goal around physical and mental well-being. I can't stress that enough. And I know that it's not related to kind of careers and jobs, but it's tough out there right now. And we're all in lockdown. We miss our friends. We miss our norms and our habits and our customs. You can't be strong job searching. You can't be strong in your career. You can't be a strong thinker if you aren't taking care of yourself. So whatever career or kind of personal development goals you are setting for yourself this year, my big ask of all of you, set goals around your physical and mental well-being too, because with that as your foundation, you're ready to go. You can do anything after that. But it's so important that your mind and body are strong enough to allow you to have the kind of success that you are looking for. So maybe plant goals in a couple of different places, make them achievable, and then if you hit them halfway, supersize them, right? Like there's nothing that says you can't reinvent a goal halfway through a year to make it a little bit more challenging if you've already met it. But think about personal development, mental well-being, physical well-being. And then one last thing, if you have the opportunity, giving back to your community through any form of volunteering, whether it's virtual or not, is something that is so personally rewarding and probably can't come at a better time. And it also shows people that you care enough to be a citizen in your community, and that gives you a differentiator, it gives you a competitive advantage. So if there is a goal that you could also put forward around how you're helping your community or a cause that's close to your heart, that is always something that's both personally rewarding, but it also gives you a bit of an advantage.
Love that. Yeah, wellness and well-being, mental health, so many great resources on the futurelaunch.ca hub. So check them out. And with healthy body, healthy mind, careers come next. Sam, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, just even on that note, everybody here has access to internet, clearly. So Future Launch at Home. There are so many resources on financial literacy, technical skills, the list goes on. But that piece, but I think even dialing it back to what Mary said, make sure you take care of you first. A small goal, and if you're really struggling, I'm going to be completely honest. It could be something like, if you're really struggling, lay in your bed. If that is a goal for you to start, but for those who are a little bit further along, it could be something to do with your career. Just doing the career search, taking 10 minutes a day. Don't strain yourself, for 2 hours thinking you got to be Superman or Superwoman, finding 5 job offers every week. No, we're all going through it right now, so you have to be very realistic. And again, Mary actually touched on this too. Earlier on, she said the importance of preparation. So important. So when you're setting a goal, like, number one, take a step back. How are you setting your goal? For those who know SMART goals, stick to doing that, specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and timely goals. Set goals with a passion. And again, if they have to do with mental well-being first, focus on, mental well-being SMART goals first. And then make that bridge towards career, and then make that bridge towards whatever the next step is. But it's taking 10 minutes a day and figuring out where you are as a person, and then making that next step.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that. So some goals for all of us to take away and start to chip away at those over the next few months so we can celebrate at the end of the year with all of our career progress. So I'm going to turn it over to, again, we're going to get experimental to test out the WebEx here and have Sophia be able to live ask the question. So Sophia, hopefully you can unmute yourself. And if you have a camera, you can always turn your camera on and ask the next question.
Hi, can you hear me?
There you are. Hi, Sophia.
Hi. Sorry, do you want me to ask the question that I have prepared?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I was wondering, through all of your experiences building your career, I'm sure everyone has gone through like doubts and fears with the unknown. My question would be, how did you overcome them? As that's something I feel that has like kind of bothered me throughout my career or trying to get there, and something that I would like to get past of.
I can start. Sophia, thank you. What a really, really important question. And I'll tell you this, when that self-doubt creeps in, so let me start here. I'm going to start from the beginning. There is so much that you have to offer someone. Let me tell you, like, I don't care if you define yourself as a student or a grad or you're early in career or wherever you are, you have so much to offer an employer from the sheer standpoint of you've got experiences and perspectives on the world that a lot of employers want. You're the next generation of talent. You're the next consumer. You are consuming things and reading things and looking at influencers in ways that I could only ever dream of. People like you offer so much. And so start with that confidence, knowing that there is so much that you have to offer whatever employer in whatever industry you are looking at. So start there, because you do. The second thing I would say is when those moments of self-doubt, sadness, anxiety, pick your adjective, when they come in, and we've all had them. I mean, I still have them. I mean, everyone's got that. We are human, right? We are all human and we feel these things. When you have those things, you've got to reach out to a network of people that you trust, because sometimes talking about it just takes some of the oxygen out of it. And sometimes when we don't have the ability to talk about how we're feeling or what we're struggling with, it becomes so big, it can actually be a mirage in front of you that is way bigger than it ever needs to be. Chip away at it. Talk to people, your friends, your contacts, connections, whoever it might be that you trust, and just start to break those things down. Once you get to kind of what the heart of the problem is, you can then start to just say, all right, how do I tackle this? Who do I need to tackle this? What skills do I need to tackle this? But the world can feel overwhelming right now. Like I know how you're feeling. We all have a sense for how you're feeling. It is overwhelming. And the biggest thing I can tell you is just start to break it down slowly with people that you trust, because you'll feel better immediately. And then you can create a plan to say, all right, where to from here?
Amazing. Great thoughts on all that, Mary. Sam, how about for you?
Yeah, that's again, I feel like every time I'm piggybacking off what Mary is saying, but it's so on point. Number one is, Sophia, your feelings are valid. I find sometimes we try to do too much, or we want to do what we see other people doing. As much as social media is amazing, it's also can be very toxic. You know, you have to limit yourself from seeing people in the best light. That, in my opinion, that's what social media is. Sometimes it's absolutely amazing to see all the great things that are going on, but often you do get a wave of negativity. So number one, your feelings are valid. Number two, limit that. And then number three, similar to what Mary had mentioned, you know, surround yourself with people who want to see you succeed. Have a bit of a balance though, because, you know, there's nothing worse than having somebody who is like, you know, painfully positive. And you're like, I know you're just doing that to make me feel better. Sometimes you need to know what you really need to improve on in order to improve on it. So that's super key. And then actually one last point, and this is something like deep to me as an athlete. I have went through many injuries. And a big thing to get me through, I had 2 broken hips. A big thing to get me through that was writing things down. So like testimonies. I have a book I have a book. I have this book I keep bringing up. I have a book that I will look back at anytime that I'm like, oh, I'm having a brutal day. And I will remember, you know, November 14, 2014, when I had to get surgery. I was lying in my bed and I'll be like, this is not as bad as that. But I don't try to compare it. I'll actually look at the progress that I made. And I remember the moments where I felt like, you know, Rocky Balboa, you know, doing like push-ups and not being able to use my legs and things like that. And then it just gives me like perspective. So that testimony piece is the biggest part, because when you remember what you've gone through, you can all of a sudden remember how it felt to be successful. And again, when you're down and out, you look up, all you can do is go up, you know? So hopefully that those little tidbits help.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sophia, for jumping in and asking a question I think is on a lot of people's minds. So appreciate it and great to virtually meet you. Next, I'm going to pass it over to Anna. If you want to unmute yourself, I see you're on camera. Thanks for joining us, and over to you to ask your question.
Sure. Hi, Sam. Thank you so much for all the input you've given. This question is to Sam. So in 2015, you created a mentorship program for RBC training ground athletes. Thinking back to 5 years ago, did you envision the program as it is today? And if no, what is the difference from your expectations back then?
Yeah, I would say there are definitely things that I envisioned to happen, but there was also really good surprises. To be honest, it came out because I wanted athletes to feel supported. I spoke earlier about being introverted and shy, and before I had my athletic success, I didn't have a lot of people talking to me. I remember going to university. First year, I hated it because I made no friends. I lived at home, so it's a commuter campus, the University of Calgary. So I would literally go to school, go home, didn't do any of the homecoming activities. So I always remember those moments, like a full year of just not talking to anybody and recognizing that RBC training ground athletes, and especially the ones that are identified, they're in a new space. So they're going to need people to kind of show them the ropes. And, that was the expectation. What I didn't expect is for individuals to create like lifelong relationships. A couple of the athletes, for instance, one of them he used to train in BC. He flew down to Florida during the pandemic. Not the best decision, but I mean, you got to train. But he now trains with his mentor. So yeah, I was expecting these athletes to have great relationships, but to like literally be training with him now too. And now they're both on the verge of making the 2021 postponed Olympics. That I would never have seen, but I am so happy that it happened. Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Anna.
Great. Thanks for answering. Thanks for that question, Anna, and for jumping in. So we have another question from Jack, and we have about 10 minutes left. We've been able to work with Mary and Sam to kind of keep some time for some overflow, but I'll open it up to Jack to ask his question. Hey, Jack.
Hi, nice to meet you. Hi, Sam, Mary. Yeah, I really appreciate your sharing today. It's very kind of like an inspiring idea for me because like I'm an international student from China, and normally we don't have like a mentorship there. So yeah, that's also related to my question that I'm now a full-time MBA student in Wilfrid Laurier University, and I'm not sure because I'm close to my graduation, and I want to know, is there any way to get the mentor more efficiently, and how to keep this mentorship like last long and a close relationship? Thank you.
Ben, if that's okay.
Yes.
First of all, congratulations. I mean, you're wrapping up a really important and amazing degree. So, if you're looking at an MBA, I guess here's where I would start. I would first start with the resources that your school's got, because every school would have things like work placements or internships or co-ops where they're already embedded in the, human resources departments or, like the associations of companies looking to hire students when they come out of school. So I would really lean on your school and ask them, what resources do you have? What opportunities are there for you to connect me as a graduate to the companies in whatever field you are looking to study? And then the next thing that I would do is say, okay, as an MBA student, what industries are most interesting to you? I mean, it could be anything. It could be retail, financial services, healthcare, pharma, wherever it might be. And then start to identify the companies that you would like to work for, and then what those programs and opportunities are. So sometimes it's just kind of taking, what is really, really large and ambiguous and saying, okay, let's start to shape it down a little bit. Not too narrow, because you don't want to avoid, you don't want to eliminate possibilities, but start with school, see if there's a way that they can help connect you, look at different industries, see what those human resources departments or job postings or associations look like, and then just start reaching out and just start networking to find the mentor, the connections, and ultimately the role that you are looking for.
That's great. And I know we're running up on time, so we're thanks so much for asking that question. And just while we have everybody for another 5 minutes, although we will stick on for a few more minutes after this for additional Q&A. I'm excited to, and if we just switch to the next slide, I'm excited to announce Brian, who has been one of the kind of leading role models for me around all things networking and mentoring for careers, and has been a huge part of RBC's campus recruitment. And so I'll turn it over to Brian just to share a few next steps on what everybody can think of in terms of jobs or careers if RBC could be a place for all of you. So Brian, over to you.
That was such a, thank you for the warm welcome, and so great to see my friends and colleagues up here on the panel. Happy New Year to everyone. I haven't seen most of you yet. So thanks for the last few minutes, and wow, this conversation, the energy from Mary and Sam always amazing and feels good to be here. You know, I did see a couple comments in here, and I want to help people think about the next piece of, you know, what the summer and the jobs and the opportunities. And I'm going to share something in the chat that you can actually copy down, and I'll talk about it for a quick second. But there are companies out there that are hiring right now for the summer. And basically, you know, including RBC, we have our summer postings up. It's called Explore RBC. It's tagged by personas to help you navigate. But honestly, last summer I did see some of you had lost your opportunities due to COVID and some of the pandemic issues. Now companies, including RBC, we kept to our commitment, and others did as well. But there are websites and connections out there. I shared here, the Canadian government has a student work placement program where all companies are reaching out and finding it. Small and medium businesses, large places like the bank, others. So this is a Canadian government-sponsored website that you should check out, sign up, apply to it. Also, there is Magnet Today and also Ripen, also partners of RBC and also partners of people I work with closely. They are what we call SWIP partners. So they're actually posting jobs out there as well. So Ripen has virtual internships. I just was on their website as Mary and Sam were talking. There's some live postings right now. So get creative, think differently, explore some of these sites. You know, we tend to go right to the job sites for the companies, but these are some great resources that are out there for you today that you can take advantage of. So I hope that helps. And also with our Explore RBC as well. You know, it was a different summer last summer. There was some unfortunate situations in some cases with roles and certain things I had heard from other students and organizations, but I think we've learned, we've grown, and I think a lot of organizations are rethinking and also putting back those postings this summer. So again, I think whether it's Mary or Sam, I think Sam said have patience, and again, just take a look at some of these resources, Dave. I think these might be some helpful spots for students. And thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining, Brian, and thanks for being such a huge supporter of networking and mentoring for students and youth and people from all diversity and backgrounds for so long. We have a couple of minutes, and we're going to do a quick selfie with the group. And Erin, I know you're going to kind of take that screenshot. So if you haven't already, you can use any of the social channels to share some of your favorite quotes, and we'll be resharing them from the 10,000 Coffees channels. But Erin, if I have a thumbs up, we can do a countdown. Erin, are we all set? So we'll just do a 3, 2, 1, cheese. Great. So one of the fourth questions that we have for, hey there, one of the last questions we have, you know, for Mary, I noticed that you went to Western for your undergrad and the American University of Washington for your postgrad in journalism. How how did you get to this point, and how did you move from journalism into a chief marketing officer role?
I think I started by saying that there's no straight line in a career, and really it's not about jobs, it's about skills, right? And how you take skills and transfer them. So the way it happened for me was I thought I was going into journalism. I ended up taking the first job I could get, which actually ended up being journalism in a trade magazine. So learning about the financial industry. That was that job that I told you about, where, I just took it because he was in a pinch and off it went. So I started writing for a magazine that was in the financial services business. And then what I discovered is I found that it was actually really interesting, and what I was learning was amazing. And so then when the bank came calling, they wanted me to move from writing about the industry to learning about the industry. So I took on a product development role and an operations role, and then I just kept working my way up until I was running that business.